One of the most confusing things that you can do in your financial life is try and make the best financial decision. And often, the halls of Facebook groups and Reddit forums and podcasts are filled with really good financial decisions. Now, the question is, does that financial decision line up with our other lifestyle goals and situation? And we're going to talk about that today. Today, I am joined by two friends of the podcast. You've heard them before. Phil Thompson from Sky Wealth. Hey, Phil.
Hey, Glenn.
And James Millard from Sufficient Funds. Hey, James.
Hey, Glenn.
Now, we are doing a case study today. We had Peta, and that's a P-E-T-A, right in from Melbourne, Phil's hometown.
That's it, my hometown.
And the predicament is, and we'll go fully through this, they've had a lump sum come in, they've got a mortgage. Do we pay off the mortgage or do we optimize and invest and all the things? So before we dig deep, just opening comments. Like, what's your go-to, James, when you get money that walks in the door?
Yeah.
Is it that, well, let's turn this up to 11, or what do we do?
So I think number one, the go-to is just pause for a sec. Right. You've got a massive stack of cash. There's no urgency whatsoever to make a call on what you're doing with it. There's considerations. Yes, absolutely. And there are decisions to make as soon as you can, but it's like an inheritance. You just want to sit on this for a second and not rush these big decisions. The larger the lump sum, the bigger the decision is. And so taking it one step at a time, considering all your options. And then beyond that, start with goals. Start with the things you actually care about. Start thinking about what does life look like now, given, what is quite a complex situation personally for these guys, unfortunately, and then mapping that out so they can start to align those decisions with the life they want to live.
Do you have any high-level comments on this inheritance stuff or lump sum payments from insurance type
Yeah,
stuff?
I think one thing to think about is as you kicked us off, everyone's got an opinion. Like if you go and put this scenario into a Facebook group or Reddit, you'll get lots of different opinions, and often people are very black and white. You should not do this. You need to do this, or why would you do that? Because here's the option. And just like life, everything's nuanced. Everything's based on each individual circumstance, and it is important to think about what are all the options, but one thing is, after you do take a beat, don't, have paralysis by analysis, because there are, 1,000 options, but you do have to move forward and make a decision.
James, you talked about goals and what you want your life to look like. What are some of the things that need to be considered before we even open a spreadsheet?
So I think if we dive into Peter and the family situation here, we've got information around the kids. They've got some disabilities. They've got some really clear fixed costs there. Often we're meeting clients who want to send their kids to private school or may not want to do that. These guys have it fixed. It's already set for them, right? So when you look at some of that stuff, it's then stepping out of that and saying, well, we know what we have to do. What do we actually want to do? And so getting really specific, it's a good thing to break it down. Think about your values. Think about those things. What do we actually care about? Is it time with family? Is it giving? Is it exploring? Is it adventure? What can we handle with our current situation? What do family holidays look like now, given the injury that Peter's had as well, and that side of things, and then starting to map it out and saying, well, what does the next 12 months look like?
Yeah.
Is there anything at home that we want to tick off? Is the fence down? Do we need to put a pool in? Do we have any disability challenges that we haven't been able to meet at home that now we could with this massive chunk of cash in the bank? So start with the immediate shopping list.
Yeah.
And then go a bit further out.
Yeah, because it's funny, in my mind, it's like, all right, well, let's use all the, the carry forward contribution caps, let's pump super, let's optimize our tax position, let's pay no tax for the next 2 years, let's, put something into the mortgage, let's, set up another mortgage and then gear into equities or buy another investment property. That's awesome as a financial outcome, but if we still feel like we're living week on week, well, there's no point in doing that.
Yeah, 100%. That's why when we're making financial decisions, the most important thing is to stop and just start to get clear on why. Because if you don't, you're going to make them too fast because you listened to Reddit or you went to the forum or your barbecue mate told you
Or
that.
you listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
500 grand and crypto's about to go and let's get into it.
Yeah, so we're going to dig, whatever.
Deep dive?
Deep
Or
dive,
dig
that'll
dig?
do. Dive dig. We're going to dive dig, Phil, into this. My name's Glen James, joined by Phil Thompson, James Millard. Let's do it. You're listening to Money, 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 or as the regulars like to call us, M3. Everything discussed on the podcast is general advice only, which I'm licensed to give, and details can be found in the show notes. My name's Glen James, former financial advisor, now podcaster. I host this show and a show called Retire Right. I've also got a book called The Quick Start Guide to Investing, which you can check out wherever good books are sold, or there's a link in the show notes. Otherwise, thanks so much for listening today. Now on with the show. Okay, I'm going to slide through the hard facts and read a heap of comments that Peter has written in. Peter and Michael. Peter's 40, Michael is 42. Michael is a painter earning around $75K a year employed. Peter is a caseworker for children, contracts part-time, and last year earned about $40,000. Now Peter receives a carer's payment of around $20,000 per year, and they also have the family tax benefit of around $15K that will come in at the end of the year. Some hard costs are the school fees, which are 10 to 15 grand. What I will read now is, so you might be wondering, where did this money come from? So they've got $450,000, and there was an accident at work last year, and Peter has some permanent damage to her hand or hands. I don't know the details. She manages approximately 15 hours a week, contracting. I really want to continue self-employment and currently exploring career opportunities with less stress involved with work restrictions. She's hoping to wrap up the self-employment and just do some casual work and take a bit of a break over the next 6 months. Now, both kids have disabilities and are at private schools who cater for them, 2 boys, 13 and 10. They really can't go mainstream public school, so private fees are a requirement. They'll stay in their current house until the kids move out of home. We would ideally like to have Michael's wage and their carer's payment cover most things. Back to the hardline facts. The payment is $450,000, which I mentioned. They've got a mortgage of $500,000, and the house is valued at $1.2 million. Peter has $32K in her super, and Michael has $66,000. They don't have any other shares or assets, and the mortgage is about 6%, probably a bit less now. What else here? She says, I'm thinking we need to pay down the mortgage significantly. Michael's pay goes up 4 to 8% each year, and he's online for a promotion in the next year or so. He has a car loan at $30K, but he pays it off doing weekend work for his own business, which is a bit of a side hustle, and I think they pay around $200 a week for that. And she said that they just want to make it hard, so they just can't redraw because maybe they do have a redraw mortgage. Oh, and she did actually say, it's not on this printout, but it was in the other email, they had a 90% fixed rate and a 10% variable with an offset. And she said something's not linked because the money's in that offset account, but the interest hasn't gone down, and the rate has just now gone from that 1.5% fixed up to 6%. So it's kind of the interest rates went up. This money has come in, and she has help debt of $18,000. So lots going on there. Anything else? Like house reno. They maybe want to spend 50 grand, and Mike will probably do that, and they'll and they'll be at the house for around 10 years. So we've got a $1.2 million house. We've got a $500,000 mortgage. We've got $450K in the bank. We've got some carers payments, some family tax benefits. Income is increasing for Michael. Income has been lowish for Peter because of the accident last year. This is just a summary I put together. Do you guys have any initial thoughts or questions that I might not have put on this summary from the email that came in?
There was a few questions I had just in terms of, and we could just make assumptions on what that looks like.
And they live out of Melbourne. I think I said that.
Yeah. So there was talks about income from a side hustle for Michael.
Yeah.
Don't know if that income is included in that 75 grand of income, or
I don't think it is.
If that's just kind of, that's just paying off the
loan.
loan.
I wouldn't think.
He's a painter, right?
Yeah,
maybe there's a few cashies.
Yeah, there's a few cashies in there.
Well, no, he's employed, getting 70 grand.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then there's the side hustle.
Yeah.
That income may not be included in that 70 grand, but let's just assume it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't assume that it is.
No, we won't dob him in.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, what jumps out to you guys, when you see this case study?
Feels like we're back in uni. I love it.
It's a good financial advice case study.
It is a good case study.
And that's it. I think I've mentioned this before. The plane pilot videos I watch on YouTube, Captain Steve, sometimes he'll say at the end of the video, remember, superior judgment trumps superior skill or superior knowledge.
Big time.
So that's all well and good, because the textbook says, friggin', let's turn this up to 11. We've got to catch their super up and all this stuff. But the judgment and the reality of it is a different thing.
Well, they're in a tough situation, right?
Yeah.
Fairly tough situation. Although financially, it now looks like everything might be okay. I think we'll get to this as we go, but there's a lot they're going to need to do after paying off a mortgage if that's the way they go.
Yeah. Look, I think there is some structural housekeeping, excuse the pun or not, just with the budget and spending plan. And I know that life's tough, but there is a fair bit of money floating around, and I know things cost, but you've got to remember, and I'm not being harsh on them at all, they've had a relatively very, very, very low mortgage for a long time. Sure, there has been some lower income years, and they've obviously been self-employed for a long time.
Yeah, there's a low super balance in there.
Because the super balances are quite low relative to the average 40-year-old bear.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's a few things I wrote down as you were going through the case study. When you're looking at things like, what are we going to do over the next 10 years? Because they're going to stay in that house for 10 years, and the kids, presumably may look to move out of home. We'll have a 20-year-old and a 23-year-old. So there's a few things that just projecting forward, like school fees, will they increase? It looks like they've got one in high school and one in primary school still, so that may have an increased cost in the future.
Yep.
Other thing is, when will carers payments cease? As the kids get older, because if that's a big part of their budgeting, that's something to factor in. FBT, when will that stop or start
FTB.
Family tax benefit.
Tax benefit, yeah.
FTB, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, Phil.
I did write it. I wrote it down.
You're so welcome.
I'm half accountant these days with FBT.
There are too many abbreviations in our world.
So, their questions, projecting forward, when will they reduce or slow down or completely stop? And is there, I think we can almost, and I know we should estimate this, but these kids both have disabilities. Does that mean they're likely to turn into adults who need care as well, right? Exactly, yeah, and that has a big projection difference.
Just me looking in at it, I think that they're a very, I'll probably get cancelled for this, but
high functioning
disability.
That's
a livable
the assumption I had
thing because Peter is working part time and the kids are off at school.
Yeah,
it's not as if they've written here one of the children has a full-time carer provided by NDIS and all that stuff.
Correct. And, and they're in the private school. So the private school was important because they get additional support. Yeah. But it wasn't, hey, we get NDIS funding of, a whole bunch. So that was my assumption, that they wouldn't access an adult disability support carer system because it seems like they're
Which then gives them a bit more upside as things progress. right? So, I mean, they're 8 years from both kids being 21 and 18. And that doesn't mean they're out the door, but potentially ability to start working if they're high functioning.
But it does mean a significant amount of their household income will start to fall off because we're talking $15,000 in family tax benefit and $20,000 in carers
I think
support.
going forward, whatever way they look at this, because Peter's obviously, she's done with this self-employment stuff and she wants to get some casual work. And I don't blame you, Peter. Like,
we're all self-employed. We do not blame you,
and I really don't blame you. I want Peter to be able to go to work, do her casework stuff, and go home. None of this invoicing, none of it. Like, let's just get a casual job doing what you love. Peter, yes, she's got some permanent injuries with writing and typing, she said, which isn't great for casework. So it is manageable. But how do we get, like, there's a big thing, Peter's career, getting that back on track.
Big time.
That's like a huge thing.
At a level that she's okay with,
Yes.
and then they can plan ahead. And that is one of the other unknowns, right? It's, well, where does income go after this year for her?
Yeah.
And is it just at a base level? Is it just covering things like those school fees?
Well, I think we need to get there, the end game, when we're finished with the case study and they've done their budget and spending plan. We need to try and get them not 100% financially reliant on the family tax benefit, because I would rather someone get an awesome job that pays well, that shoots them above the threshold, because there's just, you make more money from that because family tax benefit caps out.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where it's just a matter of thinking about and projecting forward when they're going to stop. And it's really important, when you're not, financial advisors, you don't, you're not on Centrelink websites, reading all this information about it, but you've got to start projecting forward and thinking about that. But I think the first thing to, touch on is also that $450,000, that's in their account now.
That's right.
That's going to impact their Centrelink payments as well.
Straight away.
That's right. So we need to work out, what do we do? My initial thought is, it's funny, I don't love, because on the Retire Right podcast, when you do strategies and that, you say we hide it from Centrelink. I don't love that wordage of hiding it from Centrelink. I think I like the words, it doesn't impact Centrelink assessments it's in the house.
You're trying to make smart money moves.
Yes.
And
to
being able to keep earning the Centrelink income, which is so critical for their family, is so important, right?
Yes.
You don't have to hide it, but you do need to be smart.
Well, we just need to optimize.
Yeah, and Centrelink, your net wealth position won't change if it's inside a super or if it's paying off your mortgage. Your net position is the same.
Yeah.
Centrelink sees it very differently based on, liquid assets.
Yes. Now, I don't know this, and I'll go out on a limb to say that you guys aren't Centrelink experts with this type of stuff. If you did magically put the $450, paid the mortgage down, so you had a $100,000 mortgage or a $50,000 mortgage, does Centrelink see that $450 in the account and look at it and deem it as if, you had it, you just paid the mortgage off and hit it?
You're disclosing your mortgage balance.
Right.
So you've got a low mortgage.
Yes, but they're not saying, well, you did have...
No, it's not.
Yeah,
it's not
that's what
dodgy.
I didn't think.
It's not dodgy because you're...
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Your home loan isn't assessed and your home that you live in is not assessed.
And before we kind of get into maybe solution mode, let's have a chat. The help debt for Peter of $18K, you'd almost just forget about it for 10 minutes.
She's going to be under the threshold.
Yeah, it's just going to be ticking
What do
along.
you think, James? Would you just leave it? Let
Absolutely
it roll?
leave it.
For
you're
sure.
You're not paying off a help debt that's costing you minimal, a couple of % a year basically at the moment. Yeah,
and if the percentage does if inflation goes too high, the government just give it back anyway. So,
Yeah, that's right.
Pre-election.
You just had a 20% decrease off it, so congratulations.
I mean, with anything like this, there's a return on investment conversation, right? And you're thinking, well, does the cash sit in the bank? Probably not, going to kill the carer's payment or significantly reduce it at least. So we're not doing that. You could pay off the mortgage, and if you're just looking at the return on investment, it's, well, what is the interest rate? Yeah. RBA cut rates again today. So we've lost 0.75 this year.
And thanks for James wrecking the evergreen nature of this episode. We are recording this on the 12th of August, so there you go. It'll be up within the month anyway.
You're welcome.
We just get so excited over here, Glenn.
Oh, we really do. Okay.
So then you're looking at it and going, well, sure, rates might keep dropping, but maybe there's a bigger decision around paying off the mortgage anyway, and you put that aside. There are other things to think about when it comes to return on investment. If you've got 500 grand or 450 grand, you could be investing, it could be in super. You're likely to get better returns.
Yeah.
But
the thing that I find interesting, and even for my case with me and Kate, my wife, this statement right at the bottom, we want to make it hard so we can't redraw.
Yeah, because looking at this situation, you've got a couple of 40-year-olds. Sure, they've got a house worth 1.2. So obviously they live in Australia and they bought the house last year for $100,000. So they've had some good growth there. You know, maybe they've just pumped the mortgage. Maybe there was another inheritance that helped them. I'm not sure. Maybe they have been self-employed for a long time because the super balances are relatively low. So you can look at this two ways. Like, they're in their early 40s, on net worth position strong, $500,000 mortgage, you'll take that any day of the week with a house worth $1 million, conservatively, even $1 million. But I think looking in, you know, the kids are 10 and 13, or even rewind a little bit, when they're 30s, there's potentially been some sloppy money management prior to kids. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just kind of trying to make things spicy and entertaining.
And maybe income's just been relatively low.
Yeah, that's right. And
throughout.
And this is the thing with self-employment, guys. You've really got to look at it. I'm not talking to Peter and Mike here. If I can call you Michael. P&M. You've really got to look at the self-employment thing, that when it all washes up, you're probably earning less than just going to get a job. However, you might like the flexibility of earning less and being able to do the school run. And I don't know. Anyway.
That is actually a point I put down the bottom. It's not totally related to this case study, but it is something to go, self-employment. It's really important for us to communicate. We're all self-employed to be putting money into your super. Like, as hard as it is, and as, you know, if you are, on your own, and it's important to keep contributing to super and keep building that nest.
And that comes back to a saying that we use a lot with clients, is that idea of forced savings. And what you can't touch, you're not going to necessarily notice it. If it sits in the bank account, behaviorally, it's easier to use.
Totally.
Whether you're on top of it or not. And so, that idea of, and this goes for everyone listening, can you dial up your repayments to the mortgage? Can you force out before you see it into the investment, into the super funds? And for these guys, maybe that is, you dump it into the mortgage, you can redraw it. So there's a decision to make which would cut that right off. And if they do that, then they're going to need an emergency fund to start with, and then think about what's left.
All right, slow down, Turbo. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back, get into solution mode, and do a community segment of the week. We'll be back right after this.
If you're after personal financial advice, don't get it from a podcast. But if you want guidance tailored to your situation, head to moneypodcast.com.au and click Get Help. We'll connect you with one of our trusted professionals, financial advisors and mortgage brokers, who work with people right across Australia. No matter where you are, they can help. Now, before we get back to the show, a quick reminder to protect your financial life. That means having income protection sorted. It means having death cover if there's any debt or dependents relying on you. It means getting your personal insurance in order. Most people insure their car, they insure their house, but what about themselves? Sky Wealth, who support this podcast, are specialist financial advisors who can help you get the right cover in place. Their advice is often more comprehensive and better value than going direct through your super. Book a complimentary 15-minute chat at sky.com.au. That's skye.com.au, and they'll point you in the right direction.
All right, we are back. We asked you in the Facebook group, and hey, if you want to join the Facebook group, remember to put I heard Phil, Glenn and Jimbo on episode 834 or 833, whatever this episode is at the time. So we know you're not spam. There's about over 90%, maybe 95% of accounts joining is spam. It's wild. What's the most thoughtful or low-cost gift you've ever received or given? Alyssa, I bought a $5 Jenga game from Kmart and hand wrote a memory with and or favourite thing about my husband on each block. Jeez. So she's saying she wrote everything about her husband on every block.
Yeah. Well, a memory.
Gosh. Okay. Still one of his most favourite gifts.
It's thoughtful.
So it worked.
I'm a romantic, aren't I?
Spot on.
Go on, one of you.
Cold-hearted. Katie has said, a card written in Braille. Not many people think to give me a card in text I can actually read. It shouldn't, but always brings a tear to my eye when I receive a Braille card.
Oh, that's awesome.
That is nice.
I can put some pen marks in this paper and make my own Braille.
All right, we've got one from Ashley. A hot homemade meal dropped at my door by our lovely friend while we were grieving, and a homemade meals for the freezer dropped at their door, made by our lovely neighbours after we just had our second baby. Pure angels, they were in those tough Pure angels, they were in those tough moments of life.
Meg. Given my time to help out when someone is having a tough time and checking in on them, except e.g. helping a friend who is struggling with a newborn and washing, cleaning the house and walking the dog, received a heartful thank you card.
And Ash said, for Christmas, I received a bagel slicer from a friend. Super low cost and not something most people would usually consider a gift, but she knows I eat bagels every day, almost every day, and so it was thoughtful and practical. Honestly, 10 out of 10 gift.
I've got one from Hannah. Short, sharp, and brilliant. It's babysitting.
Nice.
Yeah.
So much value in that, Hannah.
That's the best.
Shani.
Are you in Newcastle, Hannah?
Yeah. Shani, asleep in. I have a 2-year-old that believes 5 a.m. is the time to be thriving. All I wanted on Mother's Day was to not be woken up until I woke up on my own. I slept until midday. I was so tired. Oh, wow. Nice. Bring it home with Matt, Phil, or James or whatever, someone.
All right. Nothing or your time. Everything I want, I'll buy myself the exact way I like it. Anything you buy me for my hobbies will be either grossly wrong or inferior to what I already have or would buy myself.
Way to end it, Matt.
Thanks, Matt. I'm serious and not being facetious. I'd rather not have some token gift to throw away. Well, I don't know, Matt. I think token gifts are not necessarily meeting the brief of thoughtful.
Yeah.
But bring yourself, Matt says. Make the effort to call or show up.
Well, there you go.
There you
There's a realist and a pragmatist everywhere you look.
Matt's my guy. Gifts are on the bottom of my love language, just like Matt.
I'm a
red wine up the top.
I give gifts and acts of service, and I receive words. Back to the cricket. I've basically written down a 7-point plan of what I reckon they should do. So you guys want to go first? What you think they should do, Phil? Then we'll go what you think they should do, Jimbo. Then I'll correct everyone.
Give us the real answer.
Yeah.
I've written nothing down, so we'll ad lib. Go, Phil.
Well, I've written a few things. So for me, there are considerations to think about. So what is maximising the cash, and what is something that's going to maximise the Centrelink benefits that they're currently getting, and the other thing is like what's going to maximise their requirement to add constraints. So maximising Centrelink and constraints is use all the money minus a little buffer to pay off the mortgage or boost their super. Now, I personally wouldn't put money into super, but this isn't financial advice, obviously. So putting money into the mortgage, they do have access to redraw, but that's probably not ideal. But if they wanted to maximize the overall benefits, then you do a mixture. You'd pay off the mortgage until you are under the assets threshold with Centrelink, and then have some buffer for cash for emergencies, and maybe for that $50,000 reno that they're doing, and then maybe to create some putting some money into super for their long term, or create an investment account. But just like with me and my wife, Kate, like we've made a decision that even though it's not financially better to pay off our home loan, we're working hard to pay off our home loan because that's important to Kate. And this is one thing, as a couple, it's important to come together and go, what's important to you, Peter? What's important to you, Michael? And then make compromises. So for me, it's not as important to pay off my mortgage personally, but for Kate, my wife, it is important.
Yeah.
Over to you. What are you thinking?
I like that. I think the emergency fund's key. Start there, square away a number that you're happy with. That might be 20 or 30 grand. It might be a little bit more given the disability needs. You might just get the reno done, and that leaves a bit less. All of that cash that's squared away. I mean, the 30 grand will sit against your assets still for a Centrelink, but it's not going to affect it to the tune of.
So the 50 grand for reno.
30 grand maybe for an emergency fund, and if
they won't need a 30 grand emergency fund based on this.
Yeah,
they won't have a mortgage-ish.
I guess it
depends.
They would
still have a mortgage because we're going 50 grand into the reno.
Yeah, they're not going to have a
significant.
Yeah,
and I think, I mean, as a side note, when we're talking about emergencies, the reliance they now have significantly on Michael's income needs protection if it hasn't been. So we need to think about that, don't we, Phil?
I mean, bringing it back to insurance, actually, this is another thing that I did write down is Peter talked about not being able to, I have an impairment that impacts writing and typing, which is not great for casework. A thought I had, and we talked offline quickly, is do they have, TPD that's own occupation TPD?
Yeah, could she claim?
Yeah, or even income protection that can pay, the offset of the difference of what pre-disability income.
Actually, I emailed back and asked that question, and I think there is a TPD in super for her.
Yeah, okay. So it may only be any occupation.
So it'll be
TPD.
any.
Anyway, so there's a question mark there. Maybe you can talk with them.
But even income protection. So there could be because, Peter's only working 15, 20 hours a week. So, maybe over the next, until we can go back to full-time work, is it possible? But again, it depends on Peter's situation.
Yeah.
Is she 20 hours a week because of, family commitments, or is it because of, her impairment?
And with her work hours, she's borderline, if anything, and maybe with the disability now can't get cover potentially. But Michael then, that means his cover, his needs are pretty critical.
Yeah.
And so for the family then, talking about emergency funds, I guess it's how long is a piece of string, right? If you've got pretty minimal costs, then yeah, a couple of months of expenses is probably okay. If Michael's job as a painter they feel is pretty secure, and maybe Peter could work more if she had to. And then, yeah, maybe square away the reno funds, and I do agree that the ultimate forced savings is super. They get the best tax benefit from that, but then they cannot touch it. And for kids with disabilities and unknown upcoming costs and unknown upcoming income, I think that is where a balance is pretty key.
Yeah, and one thing that could be a bit spicy is we've got a car loan for $30,000. I'm not a car guy, and I've had a lot of meetings.
Ford Falcon that was 1 million years old forever.
And it didn't cost very much money. Thank you very much.
So the aircon didn't even work.
but I've been in lots of conversations with clients where they've told me we need this car for work. Michael's a painter. We need this car. We need this new car for this. And sometimes I sit back and go, and as a good advisor, we should be questioning our clients on their assumptions. And is that true? Or is that, and just like, me and my wife paying off our mortgage, well, I understand that's going to make you feel better, but it's not as financially savvy. So do we do it or not? And then we've come to a compromise that, okay, we will do it. Same with this car is, do we actually need that car at that cost to be a painter? Or if you are employed, will they be able to, provide a car as part of your employment package? Is there smarter ways of doing things when it comes to cars.
And with a car loan, always look at, is the early termination payment when you call them up to get that payout figure, is it even worth paying it out? Because they could go and kill the loan.
Yeah. I think she said somewhere, I didn't put in this summary, that there's maybe a year to go on the loan.
I wouldn't
but if there's 30 grand...
It could be including the balloon payment at the end or something.
They will have paid all the interest on that loan already. Yeah. So there's no saving.
It's more of a housekeeping thing at this point.
Yeah.
So we're all on board with the mortgage, the lion's share going to the mortgage.
I think so. It's just that you need to then kill the redraw if you've got the concern that you're going to pull it back out again.
I've got a scandalous...
Yeah, before you tell us the actual answer.
Yeah, thanks.
It's
my show. I'm on the face of it.
Yeah. The hard thing about this is it's all about conversations. Yeah. And it's all about, talking to Peter and Michael about what is important to you individually and as a couple. And so, that's why, there are a whole bunch of options and, it depends.
And I wouldn't be 100% against them going to a financial advisor. It might cost $5,000 or $6,000 just to have a third party walk them through, because there's obviously going to be crap that's going on that we don't know here because it's an email.
Yeah. If you think about financial advice and what that would look like for them, they're going to start with a quick call, right? Are we a good fit? Here's the fees.
Yeah.
Then it's a deeper dive into all the stuff that matters. And sometimes what happens in that session with clients is you plant a few seeds that they don't have decisions on or answers for straight away, which is actually okay. And for these guys with so many moving pieces around what they want to do and how it looks, when you catch up again before delivering advice, there's another meeting ideally in between all of this where you give it a few weeks, let it settle and come back again. And I think that's where these guys could benefit from that discussion.
So as a financial advisor, you could give the advice to say, we recommend you put X amount on the mortgage, do this. You would do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they're not a fit for you, for your business, but there could be an advisor who would do that if they want to reach out.
Yeah, I think their ongoing needs for advice are likely much lower.
Yes.
They've got to set it up and maybe check it again in a few years' time unless something really changes.
And this is I mean, we all around the table, we all agree that not everyone needs a financial advisor.
No, but everyone needs a financial plan.
Yeah, that's right. And a financial advisor in their situation may not provide a positive return on investment in terms of the financial outcome, because the answer could be use the money and pay off your mortgage. Yeah. But it's bringing them together.
But you paid for that peace of mind.
Yeah, it's bringing them together and having that conversation, as a third party. So for Peter can talk about her concerns and her worries, and Michael can talk about what Michael wants to achieve out of this. So it may not prove to be a financial return on investment, but just the peace of mind that they can go and understand that, yes, paying off the mortgage or doing whatever the outcome is the best thing for us.
Yeah, or it might be that they're so clear after this conversation that we're having that they go, you know what, now we know what we need to do.
Yeah, but because this is general advice.
They know the answers to the questions we're asking.
Yeah, no one's executing anything off the back of these conversations.
No,
please
But Glenn, can you just tell us the answer, please?
Exactly what to do.
Phil, please tell two qualified advisors.
I would love to put both of you in their place. Both of these guys in their place. I would love to.
Okay, you have notes at least, so you've got an advantage.
Well, it's just basically what I've printed for you.
I wrote notes as well, mate. What are you talking about?
We both wrote notes. You could have asked for a pen.
Yeah, you just didn't prepare it all.
I'm ad-libbing.
All right. So, number one, what I'm doing is making them download the Glen James spending plan and make sure they've got a rock solid understanding of how much it costs them to wake up of a morning based on the current income that's walking through the door and based on their current expenses. That's what we need to know. She did put here, they need to take some immediate pressure off. So things are feeling tight, okay? Number two, we want to carve out that emergency fund. Based on what I'm looking at here, I reckon 20 grand's probably a bit much. Could be closer to 10 to 15. So we want to carve out $20,000 in a separate online bank as an emergency fund. Now, if their emergency fund is quote unquote $10,000, I want it still to be 20, just for the anomalies with potential care needs.
You definitely need to, get it up a little bit.
Yeah, and also if they've overshot the runway with Centrelink last year and they've got to pay $5,000 back or something like that. So I'm carving out $20,000. The car loan, $30,000. We're pissing the bastard off. I don't care if I just don't like it's gone. Have the discussion to get Mike. He's doing his little side hustle on the weekend. Okay, Mike, you're getting that $200 for painting someone's deck. That's just going into savings, into goals or whatever.
Yeah, put it in the
car
emergency.
loan. And I get when you start, when you got the car, there might have been that negotiation. Oh, can I get the car, darling? I'll just work extra on the weekend and pay for it. It's good emotional. What's like aerobics or whatever, gymnastics.
I thought you were going to say blackmail.
That too. It's good emotional gymnastics, but at the end of the day, Mike's going out to work earning $200 and the household is spending $200 a week on a car. Like that's the reality. So we're pissing the car payment off. Now,
And also, we're doing that on the weekends.
yes.
Like, is that time for family? Like, for this car, is that car worth it? And if that's important as a household,
Knock yourself out.
go for it.
Yeah.
But you just
That's
got to
where the
make those
values
decisions.
discussion makes sense.
I
right?
want to carve off $50,000 for the renovation, which basically leaves, I've just spent $100,000 of their money, 20 emergency fund, 30 car, 54 renovations. Now, the renovations aren't urgent. We can put that 50 into the house and you can cash flow them because you're almost going to have no mortgage. Then what I'm doing is speaking to the mortgage broker. These people, they're the perfect candidate for a vanilla everyday mortgage. No redraw, no offset. I know, at me in the comments, everyone, but I'm reading comments. We want to make it hard so we can't redraw. We want to take immediate pressure off. Now, what I did, I put into a mortgage calculator, and this is the scandal stuff that will get me cancelled financially, $150,000 mortgage. So go to the broker, reset the mortgage, $150,000 mortgage, 10-year loan term, okay? That gives us $1,600 a month mortgage repayment or $375 per week.
Mm-hmm.
We need to do that. Sure, you're going to pay $45,000 interest over the next 10 years, but it'll take immediate pressure off. You can also, once dust settles and we get Peter's career back up and running, we can go and clear that mortgage within 5 years.
Why are we doing a 10-year term?
Just
and not
so it's
longer?
done. Just so it's done. I don't want a $150,000 mortgage hanging around for 20 years.
I'd be forcing that into super.
Okay, hold my beer.
Yeah.
My next point, what their target needs to be, and this is on the proviso, Mike's got his pay increase. Peter has got her casual work, so, he can piss his side hustle off and, spend time with the family, whatever. We want both of their incomes to support the family. Any Centrelink stuff is a bonus, okay, but it's not the aim. Then what I want you to do, once the spending plan's sorted, I want you both to target maybe $1,000 per week into super at some point. Might be next year. You vibe me?
How much?
$1,000.
A week.
Yeah.
Did you say a week?
Yeah.
$1,000 a week.
Yeah.
The mortgage-
$52,000 a year.
The mortgage is going to be too high if you do 10 years, but you might be able to do it if you stretch it.
Well, but this is it. I know that if he's getting a pay rise, 8% pay rise, the reason I did that, hang on. No, I'm an idiot.
Do you mean a month?
Let me see. Sorry. I think I worked out $500 per week into super
Yeah, okay.
on top of their SG. Because what I did, I put if you invested $30,000 per year into super from age 40 to 70, starting with a $32,000 balance. Well, it's hard. I just wanted to kind of do some bush maths. So if you did $30,000 a year from 40 to 70 with $32 balance, 15% contribution tax, 8% return, 1% fees, 2.5% inflation, that's like $1.5 million in 20 years.
Yes.
So my whole thing
30
is
years.
30 years, so 70,
sorry,
yeah?
70, yeah.
Sorry.
And it's that last 10 years that makes all the difference. So
That's right. So
big time.
in short, I want them, because realistically, if you have most people are probably paying $1,000 a week for their mortgage. Yeah? Ish?
Yep.
I just don't want them to fall asleep at the wheel and not catch up their super.
Question I have for you, James.
Or they can attack the mortgage with all dear life, but I just think that super thing, they need to get their super caught up.
Absolutely.
Can we go and change the terms of the loan if we've got a $150,000 or is it an actual refi that we've got to go through?
So it's probably no, you could get the bank. The bank could do it, or the mortgage broker could do the reset. Yeah.
Because their income.
I mean, they'd be able to service the $150K.
I'm saying that,
but
all day long.
You work it out and you dial it up and you do it yourself if you want to, right?
Yeah.
So that could be a semi-forced way of doing it.
Well, the only reason that I wanted them to put that $350 right into the house is it will hide it from any Centrelink deeming of assets.
Yeah.
But if you've got your $150,000 loan, but it was $400,000,
it's the same.
If it's still over 30 years or 25 or whatever they have left right now.
Redraw.
Yeah, but it's redraw.
You see that
So you
cheeky
can cancel the
redraw.
redraw. You've got to cancel
that's what I mean. Like, seriously, they're going to be, and get this, because they're probably going to be in this house for around 10 years. At least by the time they've stopped living there, they're not going to have a mortgage on it.
Yeah.
And then the big question will be, well, what is that goal in 10 years? Are you downsizing at that point? Potentially not with the age of the kids.
Yeah, well, what is the 13? Yeah, 23 and 20.
It depends on their ability to work and do all of those types of things. But if they're thinking of just moving and staying at the same price, well, there's no considerations there. But there's upgrade or downgrade considerations on the flip side of that. And so, you know, if we go back to strategy with that massive chunk of cash, I think if you're putting money into super, you're going as far as your catch-up contributions. You can go back up to 5 years if anyone hasn't heard of that before. Carry forward, go back 5 years to all the years that you haven't met the cap. The cap being basically this year it's 30 grand. Concessional cap, it was 25. It's crept up over the last 5 years or so. So every time you can go back and make tax deductible contributions to do that, to fill that gap. That could be worthwhile doing.
Now, the thing is, if we're doing 30K and Peter's on 40 grand of income, then
it wouldn't be for her.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to.
No, but Peter, and that's why I just kind of did blanket.
Yeah, contributions into super.
Yeah.
Concessional or non-concessional.
You do it for Michael.
Yeah.
I mean, he can go down to, what's he earning? 70 grand.
Yeah,
so he's got 30.
But we can go down to 40K.
Yeah, he's got 25 grand.
Yeah, I don't know. I reckon Peter will get her income back up over 60 grand part-time.
She's talking low-level casual role. It'll depend what she can do. If she's struggling with her hands,
that's why this whole
thing
thing needs to hinge on, let's take the immediate pressure off by reducing the mortgage to 150 grand, principal and interest over 10 years. Vanilla mortgage, we can't do anything. Sure, we can remain a bit cash heavy, 50, 60, 70 in emergency fund, house reno thing, piss the loan off 30 grand. Let's just try and get Peter's income up. We don't have to renovate everything tomorrow, or put the extra 50 into the mortgage and cash flow the friggin' renovation of the bathroom. We just save up 10 grand and pay for it.
Yeah.
If
we got rid of that car loan, can we cash flow that reno? Because Michael's doing a lot of the reno anyway, so can we just take 12 months to do it?
A trader, So
for us, I would say if I'm working directly with this client, we are mapping it out for 10 years and making assumptions and going, hey, Peter, what do you think you're going to earn next year? What's a conservative amount? Let's look at that. Let's go to the next year, the year after. Michael, is it going to 8%? Are we getting 8% every year for the next decade? Make some guesses at that and then go, okay, well, what does it look like? If you go to 150 grand mortgage and we make these changes now, what's the impact of that on your ability to do the 1,000 or the 500 a week or whatever it might be into super? Where does that leave you? Short, you're going to pay off your mortgage in 10 years? Great, tick that off. Are you downsizing or upsizing at that point? Answer some of those questions and then go again.
And the reason why, like a 10-year mapping out of cash flow is important, especially for these guys, is is there is a significant amount on Centrelink of their income is coming from Centrelink. That will stop, that will change. We're not getting, family tax benefit for that full 10 years.
Yeah, when does this
So
all
have we
stop?
cash flowed for that? Have we?
But this whole
When do the
speaks to
school
the
fees
career.
stop?
Your career is always the main consideration, like what money's coming through the door. And granted, Peter is obviously doing part-time, kids, we didn't read it all, but, the carer's payment is because the kids have significant needs which impact her capacity to work. So, yeah, I get it. It's complex, but still, what are we thinking longer term? And based on what I can read here, we want to make it hard, so we just can't redraw. We want to take the pressure off. In this situation, I don't mind if, and most mortgage brokers would probably put a bullet to your head and they'll say, oh, no, just do it 30 years. No, it might be good to do that for flexibility, but $150K mortgage with a 10-year term, $375 a week payment, it's okay. We don't have to.
Yeah,
do anything.
And sometimes
it's fine to do that.
And again, sometimes it's good to be constrained. Like, looking at these numbers, it doesn't look like there was much savings before this cash injection.
No.
So a lot of people are living kind of like with very little margin. And so if they're used to living on little margin and comfortable, then constraining themselves to a 10-year, mortgage term actually makes a lot of sense because they know they work best because once there's spare money, we start spending and we feel like we've got, so artificially constraining yourself sometimes is really important.
Yeah. And the real constraint is Glen's suggestion, right? Do a 10-year mortgage. The artificial is probably a 30-year mortgage, but you act like it's 10 and you pay it faster. But
discipline.
They might not be disciplined to do it.
Yeah. I'm doing that all day long.
Yeah, and to be honest, I questioned it at the start, but I don't mind it because, the income would support a refinance for
it's almost not even a refinance. It's a reset almost.
No, but what I'm saying is
if
you start on 10 years and then you want to go to 30 later to ease up even more,
they could
refinance
on 150 grand.
Yeah,
for sure.
Unless there's something significant happens with Michael's income, they'd be able to make that adjustment in the future.
Yeah. And then so I put, if you invest 30 grand per year into super from age 40 to 70, starting with a $98,000 balance, which is the combined balance, assuming a 15% contribution tax, 8% return, 1% fees, 2.5% inflation, that gets you to 1.8 million in today's dollars.
With a higher starting balance?
Yeah, like the joint one, yeah.
But we haven't contributed. Are you only contributing as a household 30K into super?
Yeah, just conceptually. Because it obviously depends what income levels. But either way, I think we need to focus on, and that's where we have to do the spending plan. We need to see how much it costs you people to freaking wake up.
Yeah, what does it cost to be you? And then get some account structure so you can see what's spendable and what's not.
Yeah, and then can we get $500-ish a week? Even if it starts next year, you get everything refined, dust settles, you've just got this money, change careers. Can we have a $375 a week mortgage payment? Call it $300 a week into super. I don't care. We just need to start.
Yeah, I think it's super important.
We don't want to live, and this is for their own financial benefit, we don't want to live a false economy where they have a really cheap mortgage and then overspend. So when they turn 70, we've got all this money, but we've got all this house, but we've been living higher than what our means actually are.
And this is why it's super important to make that call about being self-employed and really, truly covering the cost of being self-employed. If you're not putting money into super, you're 10% worse off than getting a job. And so are you earning significantly more for the additional stress and anxiety and,
And all the uncounted time that you're paying to it, right?
Yeah.
The sleepless nights, perhaps, all the other things.
And we've all done it. We've all, not put money into super for a period of time, but, we make sure that, we catch up and we try and get ahead of what we otherwise would have been.
Now, hear us loud and clear, everyone listening, jumping through the speakers and trying to tell us we're wrong. 1, I'm happy to be wrong. 2, they need to get their own personal financial advice. I I am happy to be wrong. I don't love it when I'm wrong, but it happens quite a lot, so I'm getting used to being wrong. 3, the title of the episode, Pay Off Mortgage or Invest, a Case Study. The next case study that came along our desk that maybe didn't have high needs children, maybe had significant incomes and super balances and different scenario, and they were going to move, it could have been a different answer.
Absolutely.
But this is why I want to train you with your thinking and with money, lifestyle and goals first, plug the money into those things, then make sure that we're not living a false economy and not optimizing. Like, it's probably easy to spend a couple $100 on penny whistles and moon pies, but if we can get that structure in, it's like, yeah, we're going to set up an automated $100 a week to super each. Done. Who cares?
Yeah, and there's like 15 different variables in this story.
Yeah, and we've
change 2 of them, and our advice would be completely different.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll leave it there. Thanks for listening. My name's Glenn. This has been
Phil Thompson
and
James Millard.
We'll see you soon. Bye.
See ya.
Any advice is general financial advice only, which does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. Because of that, you should consider if the advice is appropriate to you and your needs before acting on the information. If you do choose to buy a financial product, read the Product Disclosure Statement, PDS, and Target Market Determination, TMD, and obtain appropriate financial advice tailored to your needs. Simo Interactive Pty Ltd, the publisher of this podcast, and Glen James are authorised representatives of Money Sherpa Pty Ltd, which holds financial services license 451289. Opinions or comments from any guests on the podcast are theirs and not those of the host or the publisher or their respective license holders.